Hello learners, so we've come to the last segment of our 50th lecture on Doctrine of Proportionality. So here we will discuss about Philip Morris versus Uruguay. It's a very popular case where the cigarette giant had filed a case against Uruguay challenging two of the anti-smoking measures. There were many anti-smoking measures taken by Uruguay. Particularly, Philip Morris challenged two of those measures. So this case was filed under Switzerland Uruguay BIT. So here, as per the facts, what we see here is the two measures that Philip Morris had challenged related to 80/80 regulation and a single presentation requirement. So 80/80 regulation stated that 80% of the packaging of the cigarette should contain a warning label. So basically this measure means that the cigarette companies can only use 20% of the packaging for displaying their brand. So Philip Morris contended that it had to distort and reduce the size of its brand logo in order to fit within the 20% of the package. So that was something that it claimed to be violative of its IP rights as well. So the second measure was with regard to single presentation requirement, wherein Philip Morris, any cigarette company, cannot sell many variants. So it can only sell one particular variant. This probably comes from the fact that earlier the cigarette companies used to sell multiple variants, and some of them were used the terms light and all of these words, and then a framework convention on tobacco control, they felt that this is misleading because it may the consumer may think that one variant of the cigarette is actually healthier than other variants, so that they did not want it, right. So then they banned the use of certain misleading terms like LIGHT or LITE. So all these words cannot be used in the context of cigarettes. So now the cigarette companies, what they started doing was they started selling their different variants as per colors. So essentially what they, the message that they conveyed to the consumer was remained the same, that they felt that there were Marlboro Red, there was Marlboro Gold. So just that one color, they sort of projected such a way that one color may be healthier compared to the other colors and as well still remain. So whatever the reasons, Uruguay adopted a measure saying that only one variant of that particular cigarette company can be sold in Uruguay. So these two measures were challenged. So primarily the Philip Morris contention related to the fact that there was no scientific evidence backing the Uruguay's measure. There was no scientific evidence, and that the measures were not discussed in detail even among the officials as well, right. And the third contention that Philip Morris took was the measures had not actually, especially with regard to SPR, single presentation requirement, it had not met its achieved stated objective. So that was a contention. So here we could see on the facts of the case, there were a lot of difference of opinion between Philip Morris and Uruguay, especially with regard to the single presentation requirement and the fact whether it had achieved the intended objective. So for that particular purpose, Philip Morris relied on a research by Euromonitor, wherein the smoking levels before 2008 and after 2008 were compared, and it was almost close. So Philip Morris contended that you'd introduced a single presentation requirement, but it does not result in reduction in the incidence of smoking. So that was the line of argument that Philip Morris had taken. So here tribunal stated that this is not how it will examine a regulatory measure, whether there is reduction in incidence of smoking or not, but rather the tribunal stated that Philip Morris tribunal stated that it will examine whether the measure was reasonable and whether it was proportionate. So it stated that it only if the measure was considered to be disproportionate, it will accept the claim of Philip Morris. Then on the facts of the case, the tribunal stated that it was a reasonable measure and it was a proportional measure. So for that particular reason, it relied on, tribunal relied on FCTC and many of the amicus curiae submissions made by World Health Organization and many other organizations. And then on the facts of the case, it stated that it is proportional. So one of the things that that makes this particular case interesting is that Switzerland Uruguay BIT is one BIT that did not have an explicit provision asserting the regulatory right of the contracting parties, right? So that provision is absent here. But in case of subsequent BITs that were signed by Switzerland, so there, especially Switzerland US BITs, you could see an explicit provision asserting the regulatory right. So therefore, Philip Morris contended that the lack of language in the BIT itself is something that would prevent the tribunal by adopting a police power doctrine. So that was one of the arguments Philip Morris had taken, that since explicitly police powers is not something mentioned in the BIT, so the tribunal cannot adopt police power doctrine and then cannot give significance to the fact that these regulatory measures were adopted in furtherance of protecting public health. And one other interesting thing here is the dissenting opinion was given by arbitrator Gary Bond, and he was an arbitrator appointed by Philip Morris. So here Gary Bond had criticized the deference that the tribunal, the majority arbitrators had given to margin of appreciation, right? He questioned that the tribunal should not, or the majority arbitrators should not give lot of significance, or should not adopt margin of appreciation to home state taking regulatory measures, host state taking regulatory measures, and he stated rather a nuanced approach or an understanding or an analysis had to be undertaken, and the impact of the measure should also be considered. That is what he stated. And also he criticized the borrowing of margin of appreciation from other jurisdictions. Like he questioned the relevance of ECTHR jurisprudence in investment arbitration, and he stated that ECHR is interpreted by European Court of Human Rights, and it has a territorial limitation as well, and it is one single instrument, and that cannot be borrowed and applied in investment dispute. Moreover, he stated that the language of Switzerland Uruguay BIT did not contain the language of ECHR, or did not contain the language that you find it in other bilateral investment treaties, and therefore the tribunal did not have any scope for applying margin of appreciation as well. I mean, just because something was explicitly not mentioned in the BIT, how can it prevent the tribunal from applying a concept like margin of appreciation? So this is something that I am not able to comprehend, because it is not possible for the drafters of the bilateral investment treaties to include everything. Like we discussed in the previous videos, the reason why the right to regulate provision was not explicitly provided in earlier generation of treaties, maybe because the contracting parties understood that there are certain measures that would flow from their exercise of the sovereign power, maybe because of that. So since it is not possible to list out everything in a bilateral investment treaty, I am not personally in favor of accepting arbitrator Gary Bond's view with regard to the absence of an explicit provision in a BIT acting as a bar for a tribunal to applying a concept. So in what we see in the Philip Morris case is that the tribunal had relied on proportionality test as well, because it explicitly stated it will look at the measures and see whether it is reasonable and proportional. Even with regard to 8080 regulation as well, the tribunal stated that it will only see whether the measure is unjustified or disproportionate, and then it looked at the fact that FCTC, Framework Convention on Tobacco Control itself, had given for using warning label in the cigarette packaging, and if you look at the FCTC provision, it stated that not less than 30% to 50%. So some limit was given. So here it was true that Uruguay had a higher amount, which was 80%. Then the tribunal stated that some sort of a limit had to be set. So if you find 80% to be arbitrary, then what about 60, 70, 75, some limit had to be set, and here it gave deference to the governmental approach and then decided that the measure was not unjustified or disproportionate, and upheld the upheld that the measure is actually a legitimate regulatory measure. So this case is in the context of public health. I think a similar logic prevails even in the context of environmental regulatory measure. So therefore, at least in those investment disputes where a regulatory measure taken for the protection of environment is challenged, the arbitral tribunal could employ proportionality test and margin of appreciation and can decide and can review the regulatory measure. So, in that way there could be reconciliation of environmental interest in international investment law. So, with that I will conclude my lecture on doctrine of proportionality. There is one other doctrine that is also frequently invoked in the context of regulatory measure taken by a host state, that is a principle of good faith. Essentially, when a regulatory measure gets challenged, it is whether the measure is a legitimate regulatory measure or is a disguised restriction. So, in that context, the principle of good faith is also equally important, or takes a very significant place in tribunal's analysis. So, in the next lecture, we will discuss about the principle of good faith. Thank you.